On the night of December 18th, while thousands of viewers tuned in to watch a festive 6-hour marathon of Grand Theft Auto on the YouTube channel Vote Saxon 07, they believed they were witnessing a man simply enjoying his Sunday evening. The streamer, Stephen McCullagh, wore a Santa hat, cracked jokes, and sipped Guinness, creating what seemed like an airtight public alibi for the world to see. But while that digital version of Stephen was playing games in a pre-recorded loop, the real Stephen was miles away, stepping through the shadows of Lurgan to commit a crime that would shock the nation. He wasn't holding a controller. He was carrying out a calculated, brutal attack on his partner, 32-year-old Natalie McNally, who was 15 weeks pregnant with his child. The investigation into Natalie's death initially had a brick wall because of this sophisticated digital smokescreen that fooled both the public and the authorities. When police first questioned Stephen, he pointed directly to his YouTube channel as proof of his innocence, asking how he could possibly be a killer if he was live on the internet for 6 hours straight. It was a physical impossibility that saw him released from custody almost immediately, as detectives struggled to reconcile the video evidence with the timeline of the murder. However, as the local community mourned the loss of a shining light, Stephen began to play a much darker, more manipulative role in the real world. He appeared at Natalie's wake, pretending to be a grieving partner, and was even filmed at a public rally demanding justice for her, standing alongside her devastated family. Chillingly, Stephen used his technical skills to spy on the McNally family during their most vulnerable moments, proving his depravity went far beyond the initial act of violence. He intentionally left his phone behind in their living room to secretly record their private conversations, desperate to know if they suspected the monster hiding in plain sight or if the police were closing in. This was a level of deception that felt like a psychological thriller, with Stephen acting as the director of his own macabre movie. He wasn't just a killer, he was an editor of reality, constantly watching the family's reactions to see if his digital alibi was holding up. This information loop kept him one step ahead of the investigation for weeks, as he carefully monitored every development through the very people he had betrayed. The breakthrough finally came when specialized cybercrime experts moved past the surface of the video itself and began to dissect the underlying metadata of the broadcast. They discovered a shocking truth. The violent night stream hadn't been recorded on the evening of the murder at all, but was actually a file created and edited 4 days earlier. Every laugh, every sip of his drink, and every live comment was a meticulously staged performance designed to deceive the police. By checking the internal logs of his computer, investigators realized that Stephen had used virtual camera software to broadcast the old footage as if it were a live feed. This was the silver bullet evidence the prosecution needed to prove that the man in the Santa hat was a digital ghost, while the real killer was out in the streets. Detectives then meticulously tracked a mysterious figure on CCTV, a man they nicknamed Officer 1, who wore a distinctive heavy jacket and bright yellow forensic gloves while traveling by bus toward Natalie's home. The figure walked with a very specific, recognizable hitch in his gait, a physical trait that Natalie's family recognized instantly as belonging to Stephen. Despite his attempts to hide his face in the shadows and rain, the digital footprint he tried to mask with his YouTube stream was being slowly unraveled by traditional police work. The contrast between the bright, happy gamer on the screen and the dark, hooded figure on the bus created a chilling narrative of a double life that no amount of video editing could eventually hide from the eyes of the law. As the case moved toward its climax at Belfast Crown Court in March 2026, the psychological profile of Stephen McCullagh began to emerge as that of a classic narcissist who thought he was smarter than everyone else. He believed that his understanding of broadcasting and YouTube algorithms would allow him to commit the perfect crime by manipulating time itself. During the trial, the prosecution highlighted the sheer arrogance of a man who would use a video game titled Violent Night as the backdrop for a real-life slaughter. The jury was shown the glitches in his logic, the moments where he failed to respond to urgent live chat prompts, and the metadata that proved his live presence was nothing more than a series of ones and zeros played on a loop. By the time the jury reached their verdict on March 23, 2026, the community was on edge, waiting to see if technology would be used as a shield for a murderer. After only 2 hours of intense deliberation, the jury returned a unanimous guilty verdict, seeing through the pixels and the lies. Cheers and tears of relief erupted in the gallery as the man who tried to edit his way out of a life sentence was finally held accountable for his actions. The judge noted that Stephen's actions were an unprecedented attempt to subvert justice and sentenced him to a minimum of 20 years behind bars. It was a landmark case that proved that while technology can be used to create a facade, the truth possesses a weight that eventually breaks through the screen. Natalie McNally and her unborn son Dean are now remembered not for the tech-savvy plot that ended their lives, but for the justice that was finally served in their name. This story serves as a haunting reminder that in an age of constant connectivity, our digital shadows always tell the truth, even when we try to broadcast a lie. If this deep dive into the dark intersection of social media and true crime has impacted you, please consider liking the video to help Natalie's story reach a wider audience. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell as we continue to investigate the most complex and viral cases currently unfolding across the UK. We will see you in the next deep dive, where the truth is always more shocking than the fiction we see online.